Throughout the history of the United States, military service has represented both the highest standard of civic duty and a mirror reflecting the nation's deepest struggles with race, equality, and institutional power. From the post-Civil War plains of the American West to contemporary debates over executive orders and military readiness, the role of black service members remains central to understanding American history. To analyze modern debates surrounding merit, diversity, and systemic structures within the armed forces, one must first understand the historical foundation upon which these institutions were built. Long before desegregation, long before modern policy directives, there were the Buffalo Soldiers, men who fought for a country that did not yet grant them full civil rights, carving out a legacy of valor that transformed the regular military forever. In 1866, immediately following the American Civil War, the United States Congress passed landmark legislation establishing the first peacetime all-black regiments in the regular U.S. Army. While over 180,000 African Americans had previously served with distinction in the United States colored troops during the Civil War, this 1866 mandate marked a permanent integration of black soldiers into the regular armed forces, albeit within strictly segregated units. These men formed four historic units: the 9th Cavalry, the 10th Cavalry, the 24th Infantry, and the 25th Infantry. The origin of their famous moniker, the Buffalo Soldiers, traces back to their engagements with Native American nations on the frontier, including the Cheyenne, Apache, and Comanche. Two primary explanations exist for this title. One points to the soldiers' dark, tightly curled hair, which bore a visual resemblance to the sacred bison's mane. The other, equally enduring, reflects the deep respect Native warriors had for their fierce combat tenacity and courage, qualities attributed to the buffalo itself. Rather than viewing the name as a slight, these regiments embraced it with profound pride, with the 10th Cavalry formally adopting the bison into its regimental crest. The core mission assigned to the Buffalo Soldiers was the protection and development of the American western frontier during the nation's rapid westward expansion. Between 1867 and the early 1890s, they participated in at least 177 documented combat engagements across the Great Plains and the American Southwest. Their responsibilities extended far beyond direct combat. Buffalo Soldiers guarded critical stagecoach and mail routes, protected railroad construction crews, escorted wagon trains, strung vital telegraph lines, and physically constructed military forts and roadways. They pursued notorious outlaws and participated in complex military campaigns across grueling desert and mountain terrains. Their service soon expanded beyond the frontier. In 1898, during the Spanish-American War, they deployed to Cuba, playing a decisive combat role in historic battles such as the Charge up San Juan Hill. Subsequent deployments saw them serving in the Philippine-American War, the 1916 Mexican Expedition, and stationed across the Pacific in Hawaii. In addition to their combat record, Buffalo Soldiers served as the nation's very first National Park Rangers. Between 1891 and 1913, long before the National Park Service was established, approximately 500 soldiers from the 24th Infantry and 9th Cavalry managed Yosemite and Sequoia national parks. They fought devastating wildfires, constructed critical infrastructure like the first wagon road into Sequoia's giant forest, and aggressively halted illegal poaching and grazing. The accomplishments of the Buffalo Soldiers were achieved under the heavy burden of institutional racism. They served in an army defined by rigid racial segregation. They were routinely assigned inferior equipment, substandard rations, and worn-out horses. Furthermore, until the late 20th century, they were almost exclusively commanded by white commissioned officers, regardless of their own demonstrated competence. Despite these systemic barriers, their bravery was undeniable. More than 20 Buffalo Soldiers were awarded the Medal of Honor, the nation's highest military award for valor. Their legacy persisted until 1951, when their regiments were officially disbanded as the United States military completed the desegregation process initiated by President Truman in 1948. The last known surviving member of the original Buffalo Soldiers, Robert Dixon, passed away in November 2024 at the age of 103, closing a historic chapter of American service. The historical reality of segregation and the long struggle for equal advancement provide crucial context for modern defense policy debates. In recent years, a major focus within the Department of Defense has centered on diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, culminating in significant executive actions aimed at reshaping military administrative policy. An executive order directing the Department of Defense and associated branches mandated the termination of institutional DEI initiatives and offices. The directive established a strict ban on race or sex-based preferences or demographic standards in military hiring, promotions, and operations, asserting that no individual group should be given preferential treatment or placed at an institutional disadvantage. Critically, the order does not restrict or ban Black individuals or any racial minority from enlisting, serving, or advancing within the armed forces. However, its implementation sparked immediate national debate regarding the proper balance between institutional oversight, equal opportunity, and military readiness. This policy shift has ignited intense controversy regarding the administration's broader social and cultural trajectory. Civil rights organizations, legal scholars, and minority veterans argue that these executive actions represent an active regression, rolling back decades of progress. Critics contend that dismantling equal employment frameworks and eliminating oversight mechanisms allows unchecked, systemic biases in hiring and promotions to reemerge. They point out that altering military training curricula and stripping away historical accounts of minority service members risks erasing the vital contributions of Black soldiers while ignoring past injustices. Furthermore, advocates argue that stigmatizing equity initiatives fosters an environment of division, making discrimination socially normalized and creating a hostile workplace culture for minority service members. Conversely, the administration and defense officials present these policies as a necessary restoration of foundational American principles. Proponents argue that any system utilizing race or sex in decision-making violates the standard of individual equality and civil rights law. Their stated objective is the enforcement of a strict, colorblind meritocracy, ensuring that advancements and assignments are earned entirely through individual competence, capability, and performance. Officials maintain that identity-based initiatives compromise unit cohesion and divide personnel into distinct factions, emphasizing that a modern fighting force must stand unified under a single standard of combat readiness and lethality. From the segregated cavalry charges of the Buffalo Soldiers to contemporary legal battles over military governance, the central question endures: how best to build an armed force that embodies both unimpeachable combat excellence and true equality for all who wear the uniform.